everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria Montefusco and I'm a lover of all things when it comes to makeup, beauty, fragrance, and all that fun stuff. And today is going to be a palette first impressions. So I got this Beauty Bay Age of Opulence palette in the mail yesterday, and this palette is full of blues, purples, neutrals, just really fun colors. And so I decided that I wanted to purchase it because I really like the color story. It reminded me of last year's limited edition Book of Magic palette, which had amazing reviews. And also, like, Beauty Bay's formula is just something that's always intrigued me. So I thought this would be a fun video, and also would just be a fun palette for me to have in my collection to see what I think about Beauty Bay's formulas and to see if this color story is something that I am really drawn to. So I think today I'm going to do two separate looks on each of my eyes, one focusing more on like the blues, one focusing more on the purples. So if you're interested in seeing my first impressions and a tutorial and also seeing some swatches of this palette, then please keep on watching. Alright, so in case you're not aware, this is what the palette looks like. So we have a lot of blues, a lot of purples, and a lot of neutrals. I think this palette is really fun. There are some shades in here that I do think could look similar on the eyes, but for the price point and for the amount of shades that you get, I'm not like too mad about that. So I think one eye I'm going to focus more on blues and one eye I'm going to focus more on purples, because like neutrals aren't really that special and like hard to formulate. So I thought a good first impressions would be playing with more of the colorful shade in the palette. So let's get started. So as always, I'm going to start with some eye primer. So my Milani eyeshadow primer. This is the primer I always use when I'm testing out a new palette because it's my favorite and it really never does me wrong. So I can really tell if I like a formula or not based on how it performs with the Milani primer. So I'm going to apply this to my eyes and then we'll get started. All right, so let's get started. I think I'm first gonna go into the shade Hope, which is this like tealy shade on the top row. And I think I'm gonna take my reference number 15 and I'm gonna put this on my right eye in my crease. Wow, that is extremely pigmented. Oh my goodness. Just one dip into the pan, one swipe on my eye, and it was like, bam! So that's impressive. Blues and purples can be really hard to formulate in eyeshadows, especially mattes. So I feel like this is gonna give me a good idea about what I think of the Beauty Bay formula. Because there have been other palettes of theirs in the past that I have been intrigued by, but I've just decided not to purchase for whatever reason. So this will tell me if I want to purchase from them again, you know? Well, that was fast. That's already the crease, the first crease color. That is crazy just how pigmented that is. Oh my goodness, that is nuts. So now I want to go into my reference number 13 brush, which is this very small crease brush, and I want to go into Rich, which is this darker teal, and I want to define the crease that I just did. So just want to go in and further define and darken the crease. Obviously, today is going to be a dramatic look. I'm not going for subtle at all here, but yeah, this is laying down very nicely, very pigmented, providing some nice depth. I really enjoy that. And then for my other eye, I think I'm going to go into the shade Flapper, which is this matte purple in the third row. I'm going to take a reference number 27 brush and going to fluff this into the crease. I'm basically trying to do the same look on each eye, just with different colors. So it doesn't look, you know, like too crazy and different, you know? This is not laying as well as the blue did on the first pass, but we'll see if it builds up nicely. I'm not mad that it didn't do that, because I know purples are really hard to formulate, but we'll see how it builds up and blends and all of that. All right, so that's the first shade in the crease for the purple. And I think now I'm going to go into my reference number 14, very small crease brush. I'm going to go into Dandy, which is very similar to Flapper, just a little bit darker, and that's in the bottom row. And I'm just going to define the crease with that shade. Yep, that's doing what I want it to do. That laid down very nicely. Just providing some depth. So there we go. That is the crease for both of my eyes. So far, I would say so good. So now for the outer corner, I want to take the shade Lavish, which is this dark, I'd say royal blue on the bottom corner. And I'm just going to take my reference number 28, and I'm going to put that on my outer corner of my right eye, which is the blue eye. I'm not seeing any fallout from any of these shades, by the way, on my face, which is really good because I did my face first today and put some bake under my eyes to hopefully catch any fallout. But as long as you don't dip in too much and you tap off your brush, it seems like this is pretty fallout free. So that is good news to me. And then similarly, I'm going to take the shade Velvet, which is on the bottom row. It's a dark purple. Going to take my reference number 1 brush and going to apply that to the outer corner on my left eye, which is the purple eye. Perfect. And now I'm going to blend with the brushes that I used in my crease, just to make sure those outer corners don't have any harsh lines or anything like that. That blue outer corner shade is blending a bit patchy. I'm not sure if you can see, but where my lid meets my crease, there's a bit of patchiness as soon as I went over that shade. So that I'm not a huge fan of. I think I can fix that though, but that's something to keep in mind. That dark blue I don't think likes to blend. Let's see if I have the same problem with the purple. Yep, I'm having the same problem with the purple. When you go over it, it gets a little bit patchy. Again, like near the area where my lid meets the crease. So that's not great. I would say minimally blend the dark shades, but I think I can fix it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into the shade Curfew, which is that darkest blue. That's in the second row. And I'm gonna take that same brush I used for my outer corner for the blue, and I'm just gonna try to deepen up the very outer part of my eye. Perfect. And I'm gonna do the same thing with the purple. So I'm gonna go into Speakeasy, which is this like plummy shade on the second row. Gonna go into that same brush I used on the outer corner and just gonna darken everything up just a bit. All right, I think that looks good. So I think we're ready for the shimmers on my top part of my lid. So let's do that. Again, as always, going to take my Too Faced glitter glue, the never-ending glitter glue it seems like. Gonna apply this on my lids, and then when it's tacky, we're gonna put the metallics on. So this is just to make sure my metallics are as intense as possible, stay on my eyes throughout the day, don't fade, all of that good stuff, because I like to have intense metallics on my eyes. So I'm gonna do this real quick, and then we will get into the fun part, in my opinion, which are metallics. All right, so on the blue eye, I'm going to go into Decadent, which is this very dark blue, and Revival, which is the light blue. And then on my other eye, I'm going to go into Ace, which is this purple. Maybe I'll actually go into Decadent onto both eyes and then fade it out to those other shades, because Decadent's like a purpley blue shade. So I think that could work on both eyes. Let's try it. Again, something to tie the looks together. We'll see. This is why I make these kinds of first impressions, so you can see my thought process as I try a palette out for the first time. You know, these metallics are definitely creamy to the touch. They lay down nicely. There's definitely some dimension and sparkle in there, which I always enjoy. So I think these are nice. Yeah, that's what it looks like, the shades on my eye. I think that actually looks really nice, so I'm not mad at these at all. Another thing to note, there is some staining on my fingers where I just use them to apply the metallics onto my lid. So something to keep in mind. We'll see if there's staining on my eyes at the end of the day, but there has been some staining on my fingers, and I assume there's gonna be staining on my hand and my fingers when I start swatching. So something to keep in mind. You will find out in my October review roundup if there's staining on my eyes as well. All right, so now it's time for the lower lash line, and I think I'm gonna use the same shade just to have some symmetry here. So I'm gonna go into the shade Noir, which is this very, very, very dark gray in the top row. Going to take my Nabla N304 and just dust this on my lower lash line. And I think I'm gonna go into the shade RSVP, which is very, very, very light peach in the top row, just to, I don't know, make that a bit less dramatic, blend it in better to my skin. It's similar to my skin tone. It's a bit peachier and darker, but I think it'll do the trick. Yeah, that looks good. So now it's time for the inner corner shade. I'm going to go into the shade Champagne, which is a champagne shade. It's in the second row. Apply that to my inner corners on both of my eyes. Again, to keep some symmetry there. That's what I find that's really important when you do looks, two different looks on your eyes, is that you need to have something that promotes some symmetry. So what I find to be helpful is that you do the same look basically on both eyes, just with different colors. You keep your inner corner shades and your brow bone shades the same, and possibly you do the same lower lash line shade. And obviously use like the same eyeliner and stuff. So that's what I find to be helpful to make these kinds of looks as wearable as possible, is you just follow those guidelines and then it's not that intimidating in the end, at least in my opinion. But then again, I like a lot of color, so what might be not intimidating to me might be intimidating to you. And also something interesting to note, these metallics definitely have more of a putty texture. Like I can really see it in Champagne. I'm not sure if you can see that, which is this shade I just used in my inner corner and brow bone. You can see my finger imprint where I just like dipped into that shade. So it's a bit more of a putty texture, some of these metallics, which I like that, and I think this looks really, really good. So that is it for the eyeshadow. What I'm gonna do now is off camera, going to apply some eyeliner, some mascara, and also some lip gloss, and then I'll be back to tell you all my thoughts and first impressions of this palette, as well as do some swatches. All right, so here is the completed look with eyeliner, mascara, and lip gloss. So overall, what are my thoughts of this palette? I think for the price, this is a really good palette from my first impressions. The purples and the blues both perform pretty well on my eyes. I used all of the purples and the blues today in these two looks, and I'm sure that the neutrals are gonna be good because it's a lot easier to formulate neutrals than it is to formulate purples and blues. But of course, I will give you all my fully fledged thoughts in my October review roundup. But I do think that this is a nice palette. The shades are pretty darn pigmented. There's minimal fallout here. I think the metallics are really pretty. I like that putty sort of texture, and they do have some nice sparkle and shine to them, which I appreciate. The mattes are good. I wouldn't say they're my favorite. I especially noticed with the darker mattes in my outer corners that when you blend them, they tend to get a little bit patchy. So I'm not a huge fan of that, but that seems to be pretty easy to work around, as you can just like keep layering some darker shadows on top, and then you pretty much don't even see that. So it's not a huge issue, but it makes the palette not perfect. But do I think that this is a good palette and worth the price? Yeah, I do. Again, this is my first impressions. My thoughts may change as I continue playing with this palette, but so far I do think it's really, really nice. I'm happy with this purchase, and I do think I would consider purchasing more Beauty Bay palettes in the future, as long as I like the color stories. So with that, now it's time for a fun part of this video, which I hope all of this video is fun, but another fun part of this video, and that is some swatches. So let's get started. So I am going to swatch this palette row by row. So let's get started with the first row. We have the shade RSVP, which is a creamy, I would say like nude matte shade. We have this dark brown called Prohibition, And we have a metallic bronzy shade called Gold Digger. So that's what the first 3 shades look like swatched. These all look pretty nice. Next up, we have Hope, which is the blue shade I originally used in my crease. We have Noir, which is a dark gray-ish black that I used on my lower lash line. And we have Speakeasy, which is the darkest purple in the palette. So those are the next 3 shades. These are all mattes. There we go. So next up we have Champagne, which was my inner corner shade, which is very much a putty texture. We have Rich, which is the darker sort of teal color, and we have Vintage, which is a shimmery brown shade. There we go. There we go. Next up we have Curfew, which is the darkest blue. It's a very, very dark navy. We have Jazz, which is a metallic darker bronze. And we have Flapper, which is a matte bright, bright purple. So there we go again. Next up we have Ace, which is a metallic purple. Silk Stockings, which is a darker matte taupe, but still pretty similar to RSVP. And then Revival, which is a metallic teal. The metallic teal is really, really pretty. I like that. There we go. That metallic teal is stunning. I really like it. Next up we have Dandy, which is slightly darker than Flapper. I also put this in my crease as a defining shade. We have Crush, which is like a peachy gold metallic, and we have Velvet, which is that darkest purple. So there we go. There we go. And then we have 2 shades left, which are going to be swatched in kind of weird areas because I guess I didn't plan this accordingly, but that's my mistake. This 20 is not divisible by 3. So we have Decadent, which is that metallic like purpley blue, really dark, really pretty, and then Lavish, which is that bright sapphire blue, really pretty. All right, so these are all the shades of the palette swatch on my hand. There was no primer, no wetness, no glitter glue, nothing on here. This is just on my, no lotion. This is just on my bare skin. So I think these shades swatch pretty well. Some of the purples don't swatch super well, but that's not like anything unexpected. And I do think the purples look good on the eyes. So again, swatches aren't really indicative all the time of how shadows perform on the eyes, but they can be helpful, and also it's just a nice way to see the color story. So I do think most of these shades swatch pretty well. Some of the metallics are more puttier in texture than others, I will say. That's something I noticed when I was swatching these, but all the metallics do look really, really pretty on my hand. So that is that. So I hope you all enjoyed this video of my first impressions of this Age of Opulence palette. I think it's really, really pretty. I love this color story, and I'm definitely going to get some good use out of this. So with that, if you like this video, please like this video. It helps out with the YouTube algorithm, and it also helps me know what kinds of content you like to see on my channel. If you like me, please subscribe. I'd love to have you all here. I post videos 2 to 3 times a week, and we have a lot of fun here. And if you have anything to comment down below, any questions on this palette, any thoughts on this palette if you own it, if you have any other Beauty Bae palettes that you think are good that maybe I should try out, please let me know. I love to hear your feedback, and I love chatting with you. And with that, thank you for spending a little part of your day with me, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!